Hi guys, I'm the artist who painted the mural, and I'm about to give a tour of the mural if any of you are interested in getting a tour of it.
We're just talking about that.
Awesome.
Just talking about that.
Right on. Would you like to get a tour? Awesome. Hello. Isn't that cool? These are Google glasses. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm wearing these glasses. These are the Google glasses. They're not coming out into the market till next year. Steve, who's a part of our World Mural team, was lucky enough to get a beta test for this so that we could do some things. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be recording for the first time ever the tour looking at you guys while we're talking. My name is Michael Pilato. I grew up right down the street. I've been doing murals since I was a little kid in this town, in my elementary school, my high school. I was lucky enough to be an artist by the name of Yuri Karabash, who's now my business partner. And we were painting the mural across the street over there at the deli, and looking across the street at this big empty wall, literally drooling, going, "Oh my God, we want that wall." And Andy Zangrelli of the deli overheard me, and he helped make that possible. The owners of the building, the Hurwitzes, gave me artistic freedom, so I was able to paint whatever I wanted. So this was a big thank you to State College and Penn State when I left State College, of all the people who inspired me in this community. I started the mural right here on this doorway with my grandmother, holding on to my daughter Sky, and two other women that were like grandmothers to me. Before they died, they used to sing a song to her, "Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer true." So that's why you see the daisies right there in the mural. There's a group of students and also grad students from Penn State that are doing an app. So when you're here in front of the mural with your cell phone and you touch my grandmother, you're actually going to hear her singing that song. Yuri and I are now in Norway, Burma, Poland, Africa, Sweden. We're in different places around the world. We're organizing artists to do these murals everywhere, and they'll all be called Inspiration, like this mural. And all the murals will stitch on the internet to make one huge mural called the World Mural. And it shows how all of our stories are very similar, and we all love the same. Every September 11th, since the day of the tragedy, I do a 48-hour vigil on my murals where I paint for 48 hours straight different heroes in the communities. The day of September 11th, when the planes hit, Yuri and I were out here painting, and I went up on the mast of the ship over here, and you'll see it when we move down here, and painted the eagle, the goldfinch, the bluebird, and the chickadee. And those are the state birds from where the planes took off from. My grandmother, who you saw, and this Native American, Bob Moore, right here, would say that when you die, your soul is lifted closer to heaven by birds, so this sort of represented it for me. In front of the mural down here, our mayor, Bill Welsh, at that time, there's a picture of Giuliani in a little oval portrait. That day while we were painting, Giuliani was saying, "It's not the Muslims, it's not the Middle Easterns, it's the terrorists." And Yuri noticed that I didn't have any Middle Eastern flags on the wall up there. And we thought we had flags from every region of the world for the international component at Penn State. So we went up and we started painting the Middle Eastern flags in the ceiling. And some students, not a lot, but enough, were throwing stuff at us. "You're not American!" and shaking the lift. So I painted rips out of every flag in the building, and then I painted the eagle's nest on the front of the boat, and I interwove it with all the rips of the flag, symbolizing that the eagle flew out, ripped the flag, brought it back to its home, which is America, all the different immigrants that make this a beautiful country it is. When I was finished with that, it was 48 hours straight. Right after that, 10 firefighters were honored in New York City. Honored at Beaver Stadium from New York City, and 4 of them got a tour of the mural. They went across the street to the deli, and they're like, "Yo, Mike, come on for a beer." Went over, drew a picture in a napkin real fast of a firefighter, put 22 in the helmet, and wrote a poem for them. A week later, Tony Martin, one of the guys, sent me a photocopy of that back with a picture of his cousin who had died in the towers, and they were identical when he was from fire station number 22. So I painted a picture of St. Nick this big. I put all the guys who died behind him. Mind you, they're little dots in the background. But right behind St. Nick, I put his cousin and gave it to the firehouse for a Christmas present. Ever since then, I've been going up having a great time with them in New York. But they honor me with this cross in the middle of the mural right here, and that's made from the steel of the Twin Towers. 80 firefighters buffed that cross for an hour a day for 80 days straight of the sleepless nights of Ladder 133. They gave me another one that's in our mural in Williamsport. But when I put the crosses up, I ground the back of them down and saved all that metal dust. And we mixed it into all the religious symbols that you see around the top of the mural up there, like Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, tribal religion, Confucianism, Taoism, Muslim, etc., etc. The reason I tell you this story now is this year's 48 hours was Michael Murphy. Michael Murphy's painted on the door here. Michael Murphy graduated Penn State in political science and psychology. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is the highest honor one can receive, when he saved one of his Navy SEALs and he was shot and mortally wounded. His parents came out and put their handprints in him. When his dad put his handprint in, He said the first phone call he got after his boy died was from Hillary Clinton, and the second phone call was from Joe Paterno, and that the Paterno sent him white roses. So he has a white rose with him there. Joe Paterno's holding on to a white rose, and also Sue Paterno has a white rose in the mural as well. The first football game, when we were painting the mural, Yuri and I, this granddad came out with his two grandsons. They got a tour of the mural, and then every football game after that year, they would come out, Michael, what's new on the mural? So the last football game, I was like, you guys ever play Where's Waldo? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, find Waldo on the wall. So they're literally going nuts looking for Waldo. And then they come up and see themselves painted there in the first window with their dad. It was awesome. They're like, oh my God! It was great. The latest part of the mural, and please, when you get a chance, read the little letter on the metal there, was Kyle Johnson. Kyle Johnson was an outstanding Penn Stater. He was a Lion ambassador. Sadly, he died this year right before Mother's Day at the Pittsburgh Marathon when he had a heart attack. He had a rare heart disorder. I painted that for his mother for Mother's Day. His mother's handprints in them, his father's handprint, his uncle, grandmother, brothers, sisters, and there's a lot of little hidden things over there in that piece. The second window here, that's Colonel Russell and his late wife Eileen. Colonel Russell was one of the founders of the Special Olympics here, as well as the United Way's Day of Caring. He's looking across the street, and as we move up the mural, I'll tell you what he's looking at. Graham Spanier here with a team that did the Grand Destiny campaign at Penn State. I'm not sure what I'm doing with this panel yet. I'm waiting for the trials to end. All the little kids in the mural in green are teachers from the area, giving me pictures of themselves as children. That was my English teacher, Josephine Perrone. And the reason I do this as a teacher myself and a dad, it's always good to remind our students and our children that we were once their age. And sometimes when our kids get into trouble, it's good to remember also that we were once their age. That's Mr. Sklow of Sklow Library, our local library. The woman Inez there holding the puppet, the first book she ever read me as a child in that library was Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak, and it was the first book she read my daughter as well. These are all local artists up top here, like Ziggy Coyle, Bruce Shabak, and Stuart Frost, Harold Altman. You see the girl holding a square there? That's Clarissa Stokes, and she drew that of her mom breastfeeding her baby brother. It got censored at the high school, so it made me really mad. I put it up there pretty big. They also censored Michelangelo's David from the waist up for male nipples. They made him take a poster down. So that's my friend David up there posing as Michelangelo's David. My daughter painted the nose of the deer here, so I kept it that way. Rudolph the white-tailed deer. You'll see a little footprint here. You might have seen the little girl that was walking by here earlier. She was up at the blue and white football game this year at the Special Olympics. She's 9 years old. She came by here with her service dog, and she asked me if her dog can put her footprint on the mural. And then she also wanted her handprint in Joe Paterno, so she put her handprint in Joe. She's raised over $19,000 with a group, 10 herself, for the Special Olympics. I'm going to paint her in between the doorway right here, riding her seeing eye dog. This is Bob Moore. He's a native storyteller to kids in the area. He named Wapelani Drive here in town. And Wapelani is the Lenape word for Chief Bald Eagle. Like we have Bald Eagle Valley, Bald Eagle Lake. So he's telling these kids a story about Wapelani, and if you look in the smoke up there, you'll see Wapelani's face. Jonas Panic was one of the 48-hour vigils. Jonas is from the area, and sadly, he was killed in the Pentagon. You can see all of his family members' handprints in him there and his nephew's footprint. He was named after Jonah and the whale from the Bible. So that's why he has a little rip in his shirt there, and in the whale's mouth up here is where you'll see the rip of the shirt. Brandon McCumbee was also a 48-hour vigil. Brandon McCumbee died on the 10th of September. He went down on his Black Hawk. His name might sound familiar because his father became board of trustee 2 years ago, Ryan McCumbee. His father's there looking up at his boy, his flight buddies, his mom, his sister, their friends. Everybody else are just people that were walking by and asked me who I was painting. So when his dad came back the next day, I was like, these are the people that honored your son. His father wrote above the door right there, Brandon lived a short but good life. He achieved early what every great man in world history has made his life's ambition to attain, to die honored, loved, and successful, Captain Ryan J. McCumbee. And above the other door, he wrote his favorite quote, which is, no man is dead until forgotten by the ancient Spartans. And I put that heart there for all of us. This is my friend Mona, who's posing as Princess Nittany. I was in love with her. She never went out with me. That's why I put the sad look on her face. This is Joe Humphreys. He's a world-famous fly fisherman from the area. Joe Humphreys goes fishing with Jimmy Carter and many, many famous, important people. He was one of the people here at Penn State that started the fly fishing class here. If you follow his fishing string, It goes up to a little girl in the sky holding onto it up there. And that's his wife, Gloria Humphreys, who was a substitute teacher for over 40 years, and down to where they're both catching a fish together at the other side of the mural. If we all move up just a little bit up this way. This is the first art and healing I ever did that pretty much changed my life forever. And this is Eugene Lederer of Lederer Park down here on University Drive. The day after Mr. Lederer died, I came out here to paint a halo on him, and my ex-wife gave me a call that said a little boy had just been hit by a car in front of the park, Andrew Freeman, and was killed instantly. So I called the boy's mother and said, I don't know where you go when you die, but I think Mr. Lederer and your son would have taken that walk together. So I painted Andrew in front of Mr. Lederer, put love on the chalkboard, and his family and friends and teachers came out and painted love. Some of them still do. And his mom sits across the street and says it's like having lunch with her boy. You'll notice that Lou here also has the halo, or did. It's still there a little bit. The reason I put halos on the mural is I wanted, as students and visitors to the mural came by, as they saw the halos appearing, it shows us how short of a time we have here on Earth to do great things like the people on the wall. When I painted Joe Paterno's halo, it became very apparent to the millions of people that saw it. They were thinking it was canonization or sainthood, which they should have. And then Sue Paterno said, Joe was neither a saint nor a villain, he was a human being. And that's when I decided to remove all the halos on the mural and replace them with rest in peace with the date they were born and the date they were died, to repeat that. But sadly, the news did not report the second part of that story. Up here are all local musicians from our community, like Arthur Goldstein, Ernie from the First Family, Tommy Wareham, RT from the Earth Tone, Cyril Bradford, Daryl Davies. There was a great woman in town, her name was Tanya Brown, in a band called Queen Bee. They were up for Grammys, and sadly she died of a diabetes-related incident. She was a free spirit, so she's the clouds up there in the sky. You see Old Main here, the keystone for Pennsylvania and the world. There's handprints in that, and it was Arts Festival 13 years ago when this great group out here was doing the chalk painting. The Nittany Lion was up here on the corner. The Nittany Lion came up on the lift with me, and we screamed out in the audience, okay, everybody, we want to send all these kids to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan, and we're going to start the bidding at $20 for your handprints. Nobody said anything. It was all embarrassing. Then the lion started rubbing his ears, and we raised all the money for the kids, which was awesome. This is the title of all the murals that we're doing around the world are called Inspiration. My biggest inspiration in my life is my family, and this section up here is my family. That's my daughter holding her hamster lovey-dovey. Her mother's above me, brothers, sisters, nieces, and nephews. I'm painting my mom and dad in that middle canvas, and if you look behind them, you'll see the Twin Towers. The clouds come into that canvas from the background, which means time still moves in that two-dimensional plane. The towers represent the strength of family through anything. Right after Joe Paterno died, I painted a picture of him to give to Sue for a present. And it was my hopes to help with the healing, but she actually helped me with some healing on myself, because I went there and broke down to her and told her about something that I did in my life that was really stupid and not right. 2.5 years ago, I was leaving Zeno's, the bar in town here, going to my parents' house, and I got a DUI. Sue said, you know, Michael, it's not the mistakes you make in life, it's what you do with those mistakes that'll make you the person that you wish to become. And that's when I came out to the mural and wrote on my shirt up there, don't drink and drive. And I also put Ron Millward, who's the head of the CSERT class for over 30 years. A lot of times I do my painting out here at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, when the students are coming out of the bars, so I like to kind of share that story as well. This is Colonel Deering. He does the reenactments every year in Boalsburg for the first Memorial Day. And this is Colonel Boal of Boalsburg. Margaret Tennis helps with all the festivities there for the last 40 years. She, usually when people are in the mural and they're in the mural tours, they're kind of shy and embarrassed. She'll jump out and be like, that's me, real sweetheart. These are the sculptures in Boalsburg. What happened was these 3 women came out and laid flowers on their loved ones' graves who were killed in battle. Saw all the other graves of soldiers without flowers, went home, made wreaths and flowers, decorated all the graves of soldiers, and then they repeated it the next year, hence the birthplace of Memorial Day. You can see where somebody came and scratched out their faces. I have no idea why. But what we're doing is we're bricking up this whole sidewalk with family name bricks, and we're going to use that money to retouch the mural because it's faded, add some new things, and also put a protective coating on it. We got 5 buildings around these blocks where you're going to see people cut out figures walking off of this wall, going to other murals, like murals about the Special Olympics, academics, athletics, and different things like that. Remember I mentioned Colonel Russell from the Special Olympics with his late wife was looking across the street? He's looking across the street over here at this flower bed, and there used to be a mural on it that somebody stole. I'm redoing it now. But it was him the age he was when he went into Iwo Jima. He went in with 1,200 men. On the 5th day of battle, he's got 400 men left. His good friend, who was next to him, had tears running through the black sand on his face. And he goes, "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Colonel Russell turns to see what he's looking at, and it's the guys raising the flag on the side of Mount Suribachi. So I told him when he dies, it's going to be another glorious day because he's going to see his wife again. So I ghosted his wife in. His Marines were coming up through her. They were directly across the street from these whales. And if you look in the eye of the whale, you'll see the guys raising the flag from Mount Suribachi. A lot of these are Special Olympiad handprints and also students' handprints. The whales are carrying in the boat are immigrants who came into this community. Like, see the woman in blue there, that's Helen Waskob and Alex Waskob above her. They own these buildings up the street. But in World War II, when she was a little girl, she was with her sister, her mom and dad. They were fleeing the Nazis. Bullets were flying over their head. They swim through this river. They get on a train as it's leaving. And when they get on the train, she realized she lost her sister. 13 years ago, she found her sister, which is awesome. So I'm going to paint her sister across the street over there that she's looking at. And also, we're recording her next week for that app. So when you point at her, you're actually going to hear her telling you that story. Here's the rip of the shirt that I told you about from Jonas Panic. This is where Jerry Sandusky was. I came out 2 days after we all heard the terrible news and painted him out of the mural and put a blue ribbon in the chair. The blue ribbon, of course, representing sexual violence awareness. I did that for a couple reasons. One is that I didn't want the young men to have to walk by the mural. I gave them the benefit of the doubt and have to look up at him. Also, my daughter Sky is a survivor. She's my hero. She's an amazing woman, and she speaks out and helps others. I knew at that time I was going to put Dora McQuaid in the seat. I was in Burma painting Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel Peace Prize winner there. And when the trial ended, so I flew back to add Dora in the seat. Dora McQuaid is a Penn State grad. She taught at Penn State. And for the last 14 years, she's helped thousands of victims become survivors with her poetry and her spoken word. So she's going to come up and work with my daughter, some students at Penn State that suffered through that trauma, and some other young people. They're going to do a poem together, and through the blue ribbon in her hair, you're going to see that poem. And when you're here with your iPhone or your iPad, you're going to hear them speaking that poem, and also the resources that are available for survivors, like PCAR, RAIN, the Women's Resource Center, and Choices. All the handprints here are all survivors' handprints. This is one of the jury members' handprints, and that's my daughter's handprint there. Kelsey Hirsch is quite an amazing young woman. She's only 12 years old, and she's been up at Beaver Stadium since the tragedy, selling the blue wrist bracelets for RAIN, and her program's called Bands for RAIN, and she's raised over $18,000. If you're interested, you can go in the student bookstore and you can buy one of those, and 100% goes to people that suffered that trauma. These 10 angels up here were one of my 48-hour vigils. It was raining during that 48 hours, so I did them under a tent down here. They're coming off the wall. I'm going to repaint them on the wall. That material wasn't the greatest. But those are the 10 alumni that we lost in the Twin Towers. One woman said the first thing that she remembered about her husband was going into this bar. At the other side of the bar was this guy wearing the ugliest green shirt she ever saw. So she looked at her friend and said, "Look at that ugly green shirt." The man and woman looked at each other. It was love at first sight. So he's the only angel up there with the ugly green wings. And, you know, we all were smiling about that. You know, my school, which is a public art academy, one of the things that with our apprentices around the world that we teach, you know, if you can make somebody smile on a day they didn't think they would smile, that's really the power of art. I'm not a great artist. I'm meeting young people in Moldova that are 14 that can paint circles around me. But really, the artist is you, it's the community, and we're just literally the paintbrushes that are relaying those stories. Mr. William Schreier was my benefactor, and the work that we're doing around the world and the work on this mural and other murals, really a big part has to do with him, and I thank him very much. These are the people that sponsored the mural for the first year of the project. This mural would not be here if it wasn't for them. My earliest memory of football was away games, going fishing with my dad and listening to George Paterno and Fran Fisher on the radio. So if you follow this cord and you look in Joe's glasses, you'll see my dad fishing on a canoe with a little radio in front of him. His other glasses is Beaver Stadium. There's a little dude there holding a flag that says 324, and it was that victory 11 years ago that I painted his glasses. He has the white rose from Michael Murphy, the Rest in Peace. The 409 I put up there after, it was taken away. And I also put this hand here. Paul Frankenhauser was already here, and I called Paul up, and I'm like, hey, Paul, would you mind if I had you putting 409 on Joe's seat? And he's like, do it, do it. Paul Frankenhauser is one of Penn State's biggest football fans. But more importantly than that, he's one of the team at Penn State that did the Lion Heart, which is the artificial valve that helps save millions of people's lives. The blue ribbon. I get a lot of flack for the blue ribbon. I was with Joe a couple weeks before he died, talking to him about my daughter, talking about the young men. It was really a beautiful conversation. I felt his heart. And he said, one of the things he said that stuck with me is he said he wished that there were classes to teach you what to do in a situation like that. Penn State now offers those classes. I told Joe that I wanted to put the blue ribbon with him, and he agreed with that. You know, there's a great positive always that comes out of great negatives. And I told Joe, you know, 50 years ago, black people had to get on the back of the bus. 100 years ago, a woman couldn't vote. Today, there's more of an awareness than there ever has been on sexual violence, and that must happen. 1 in 5 women get sexually assaulted. 1 in 6 boys. You know, this is something that we really have to get a grasp on, and it's not just here in the United States, it's around the world. Kevin Krasavich here won the most medals ever at the Special Olympics, and he's going to have a balloon that goes up to Sue Paterno up here that says the Special Olympics on it. And Sue's up there with a lot of amazing women like Mimi Barish, Linda Gall, Kathy Zangrelli, Grace Holderman, Pat Farrell, Mrs. Chesworth. A lot of people say, you know, Michael, why didn't you paint Joe and Sue together? The way society works, people would have said, or a lot of people, that's Joe's wife, Sue. And Sue stands on her own 2 feet. She's a real world changer to this day. John Cappelletti and his little brother, Joey. One of the greatest stories when he won his Heisman Trophy, dedicated to his little brother who was dying of leukemia. It was one of the greatest speeches, a real tearjerker. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can get on Netflix and watch a movie called Something for Joey. Adam Talaferro, who broke his back, wasn't supposed to walk again, and ran out on the field and taught us all what willpower is. Susie McConnell was a great basketball player at Penn State, now a great coach. Christy Woodruff was a Big Ten swimming champ at Penn State. The mountain lion, which is our Nittany lion, I also have in the mural in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And the day I painted him out of the mural, I also put the blue ribbon around the lion's neck, and I put it in the lion in Williamsport. The reason I did it in Williamsport, sadly, these things happen everywhere. But the reason I did it on the lion is the lion represents, to the Native Americans of this area, the Eastern Delaware and the Lenni Lenape, courage, strength, and dignity. And that's what it took the young men to come out against their oppressor. They are the heroes. They are the lion within the situation. Down here are more teachers I had, and teachers from the area as children, except for the second kid there was that age when I painted him. But he taught me everything I know about dinosaurs. He's like one of those kids, like a pterodactyl has a wingspan of 46. So it's like how our children are our teachers as well. The most important thing on all the murals that we do are the handprints. Are there any students in the audience, Penn State students? Students? You students? Alumni? You're a student? And children, younger people? What you're looking at on the murals are people from the past and the present, and your handprints of the future. Everybody we paint, from Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma, to the Crown Prince and Princess of Norway, to Sue Paterno, to Joe Paterno, they have one thing in common, that they found something in life that they're passionate about, and they surround themselves with passionate people. And if you could do this, you could be the seeds for change that we so desperately need for tomorrow. Benjamin Franklin said, tell me, and I'll probably forget. Teach me, and I might remember. Involve me, and I will learn. And literally, that's the secret to everything. Just get involved. One day, maybe you'll be in the mural, you know. So, friends, thank you very much. This is the culture that I know of Penn State. So, God bless. Thank you. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot to say, there's stuff on this table if you're interested.
One question. Why
Yes.
does that one still have the halo?
That's Kevin Dare. He was the athlete at Penn State that we lost pole vaulting, and his dad actually painted the halo, so I couldn't take it off because it was part of the art and healing and stuff. He was Roman Catholic, so that's the first Roman Catholic halo ever painted that I just duplicated. That's his ferret gizmo that his friends now have that they wanted on the mural. And his brother had a bet with him for $100 to see who'd win the gold medal for field and track. And for all the stories I heard about him, he was an outstanding young man. So I said, wherever your brother is, he's got whatever medal he needs. So I put that up there instead. And stuff.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.